What's up, guys and gals? It's your host with the most, Griever, as always, bringing you guys, as you guys can no doubt tell from that title, Shuumatsu no Valkyrie, also known as Record of Ragnarok, discussion video. I'm calling it a discussion. It's more of a ranking and more of me bitching, because with the end of chapter 63 and 64 double chapter released, I've already reacted to it, streamed it, we all know what happened. It concluded the end of round 7. So we're about halfway through the 13. Now people are saying there's going to be 14 rounds. I don't think it's going to work out that way, because you can't really have 14 rounds. You can't have an even number, blah, blah, blah. The fact of the matter is that we're 7 rounds in, and people, of course, have their favorite rounds. People have rounds that have been disappointing. And as of April of 2022, we had that release April Fool's joke thing going on by the team that brings us the translations and scans and stuff for Record of Ragnarok, so we can all enjoy it. And the community has not been kind. The community has not been a happy. We're not very happy campers right now. Ever since the end of round 4, the happy camper mentality has been slowly dwindling down to only name a few people. And the fact of the matter is that it has to do with the quality of the rounds, in my personal opinion. And that's what we're here to discuss today. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through the rounds right quick, bullet point why I liked them, why I didn't like them, and what could have been fixed and what was wrong, potentially, yada, yada, yada. So strap yourselves in, ladies and gentlemen, because this is going to be a little more constructive. I'm hoping a little constructive criticism for the most part, but there is going to be some bitching, as I already forewarned. So let's just get right into the topic of the video. So, all right, easy ranking. Let's start from top to bottom. Round 4 is the best round, okay? And it's not very difficult to understand why. Most of the community agrees with this. Now, some people really prefer round 3, and we'll get to that. But round 4, I think, was the pinnacle of the storytelling. We were all invested in Jack the Ripper's story. We were all invested in Heracles. And the duality between these two. The storytelling aspects, the plot revolving around it, and to its credit, even after the round has been over, we have seen glimpses of the effect of Heracles' sacrifice / defeat / death, how it's affected more than just Jack. It's affected the very stoic, this is the way, this is what war is, attitude Brunhilde, who broke down in front of her, brother's shrine, so to speak, being entombed with the rest of the humanities, fighters and, losers in that regard. So it's affected her, it affected Gaul, it affected Jack, of course, so heavily, and the interaction between Gaul and Jack. So Heracles has constantly affected, ever since round 4 has affected outside of its chapters. And I think that alone puts it as a candle above the rest of the rounds. It doesn't mean it has to be your favorite round. And I find a couple of very convenient power scaling issues within the round. But from a narrative perspective, round 4 is it's just greatness. It's beautiful. We love all the characters involved, and this was, I would argue, the height or the peak where Record of Ragnarok reached the pinnacle, and ever since has been slowly tapering off down the other side of the mountain. But there doesn't need to be much more rambling about that. If you didn't enjoy round 4, that'd be a very hot take, and I urge you to tell me why you don't think round 4 is so great in the comment section down below. But moving on from that one, a lot of people are going to say round 3, and I'm going to argue round 2. Round 2 was the initial round that got most people into Record of Ragnarok. Adam versus Zeus is what brought everyone into the fold. Now, I started Record of Ragnarok at the beginning of the Lubu and Thor fight. I actually started when there was only 4 chapters. I think it was chapter 0, so it was 3 chapters. Anyways, point of the matter is that I was at the beginning of the Lubu fight, or in the middle of the Lubu fight when I first started. So that's not what drew me in, but I heard that that's what drew a lot of people into the series. And once again, another great, not necessarily huge great storytelling, because backstory-wise, similar to Heracles, Adam didn't have an insanely moving, powerful backstory. He was a boss, but it wasn't like bringing you to tears and three-dimensional and great storytelling. It was just Adam, this is the way Adam is and how he was. Heracles was sort of the same idea. Now, Jack's backstory, one of the best in the series, so that was a nice counterintuitive, that was a counteractive thing. Zeus and Adam didn't have the best of backstories. They were there, they were okay, but what we got from this was the head of the gods and the first man, the hype surrounding Adam, what's Adam going to do, and this crazy power, the eyes of the Lord, was just, it's still debated to this day in the community. And a lot of people are misinformed. The eyes of the Lord can copy everything, just so we're clear. Just so we're clear. If Zeus used a tail, he'd copy all of a sudden Adam would gain a tail, all right? So just so we're clear, because the community seems to still debate and be confused about the eyes of the Lord. The fact of the matter is that the eyes of the Lord made the fight amazing. It was an awesome slugfest. It was simplistic in that way, but we knew that every hit meant like earth shattering, the divine axe, the leg sweeps and stuff like that. And of course, the kicker, the fist that surpasses time that he learned from Kronos. And Zeus is firing these things, the timer's going and everything. And we're just sitting there going, what the hell is happening? Alongside of it just being a great overall fight. Just a slugfest between these two, the first man and the king of the gods in all these pantheons. It just worked. There was something about it. The pacing was great. It didn't try to oversell itself too far. Round 1 was quite quick, and round 2 felt quite a bit longer. And we're going to get into a problem I find in later rounds, what part of the problem is. But round 2 stayed to its guns. It stayed true. It stayed simple. And of course, we had the Adam. Why does Adam fight for humanity? Why did he agree to this? And everyone assumes he's the man who hates the gods the most. And that wasn't true. And we had one of the lines, once again, the speeches also sell us. If our character is not only a cool design, badass powers, etc., but he's got a great reason to fight, even if it's a Kenpachi Zaraki reason, just he loves the thrill of battle sort of idea, you could argue that was Thor and Lu Bu, and we'll get to that too. But Adam brought up the great things like, why am I doing this? Is there any reason a man needs to protect his children? And he's just standing there like a boss. It was very simple. He doesn't hate the gods, but you're trying to hurt his children, and humanity is Adam's child. And it's just like, okay. So round 2 sold us all. It gained so much momentum from that round. So people do overhype it a little bit, but I recently reread round 2 and round 1, and I just thought, you know what? I understand why people were in love with round 2. It's not, and if you don't understand why, just like with round 4, let me know if that's your hot take that you don't think round 2 is so great, and let me know down in the comment section down below. Moving on, I got the most controversial in my personal rankings. Round 4, if you make a ranking video, or if you go onto the Reddits or the Discords or whatever for Record of Ragnarok, here's what you're going to see in people's top 3. Round 3, round 4, and round 2. Those are going to be, the majority of people are going to have those 3 somewhere in their top rounds. Probably all of them, if not 2 out of the 3, are going to be in their top 3. But here's the thing. I'm going to go a little bit this way. And I'm going to pick a round that everybody is wrong about. Round goddamn 1 is great. Okay? Round 1 is my third pick. And round 1, and I'll tell you why. Because round 1 started off, that's all we had. And I think this is, people don't like round 1 because everyone, when they got into the manga, already could read round 2 and 3. And you could argue they're better rounds. But round 1 started it all. So when I was sitting back and reading it, I was like, this shit is awesome. Like, you have to remember, before we knew of Adam and Zeus in round 2, round 1 was brutal. Round 1 was these heavy strikes and crazy facial expressions and this whole who's gonna fight who thing, and Thor comes out with this very different version of Thor, and Lu Bu comes out with this new telling of what really happened in history and stuff. Remember, this was the groundwork. It was the beginning of Ragnarok. We had no idea what to expect. We didn't have 2, 3, and 4 rounds. We had the opening gambit of all these, Zeus looks weird, and is that Odin? Look at Shiva, like, these are odd interpretations. Everyone going crazy over Aphrodite and her, double H cup titties, being held up because they weigh so much, Everyone was wondering what the interpretations are going to be and what's going to happen and that kind of stuff. And round one gave us greatness. It gave us these heavy-hitting, battle-lusting, Kenpachi Zaraki characters that were both bored and looking for the greatest thrill in battle, looking for a challenge, looking for an ultimate fight. Sky Eater is still probably right up there with Eyes of the Lord and the Fist that Surpasses Time as the best ability of any of the fighters. It's still the coolest thing. Sky Eater was badass. It didn't work, but that doesn't mean it wasn't badass. It was still very badass. Sky Eater was amazing. The whole Yomengur and the gloves and the Mjolnir and all that stuff and throwing it and just the hype, and it was quick. It was a mid-diff fight. I'm not arguing that Lu Bu was a challenge for Thor like Thor had not met in thousands of years. And I'm not saying that, but the fact of the matter is that round one is unique in a lot of respects. It's one of the shortest rounds, which is something that Ragnarok needs back. It was also obviously a much more one-sided mid-diff fight on Thor's side. And that's okay. That's okay. It stands out being the only mid-diff fight in the entire series. And that, to me, makes it stand different, unique, and should be respected for that. And nobody can sit back and tell me that round one didn't have, when we were first reading it, the whole, his heels coming straight through his bones, because even though he could block the strike of Thor, his body couldn't handle it, and slam, there goes his legs, right through the bones of his legs, right through his feet, and the brutality of this, him getting his head smashed clean off, and stuff like that. It was bloody. It was brutal. We had no idea that it was going to get this dark and bad and bloody. We had no idea, So round one needs to be respected for starting it all and being, I would argue, one of the most unique of all the rounds, because every other round has gone the distance, and that's honestly just not realistic. I say that in a manga that's bringing back all the different characters from from fiction and world's histories and gods and mythologies and blah 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 and religions. I say it's not realistic, but I still hold to what I'm saying here. So within the confines of the in-universe story, it holds value. So round one, I thought, was fantastic. Two Kenpachi Zarakis just looking for the thrill of the battle, looking for the challenge. They both got it. Lu Bu was happy to have fought Thor. Thor's actually sort of upset that he doesn't get to fight Lu Bu anymore. He didn't want that to happen. So there's another great thing, is that he enjoyed fighting, finally being able to sort of go all out to destroy Lu Bu, but then it was over. And I think the anime did this fantastically, because we had a bit of a Lion King. I refer to it as a Lion King OST. It reminds me heavily of the Lion King soundtrack sound. And Lu Bu is, after he kills Lu Bu, Thor looks up at the sky and he's just wondering about it. And he's like, God damn it. And all I could think of was Unohana and Kenpachi. That's the same feeling. They wanted the thrill of the battle, and when it's over, it sucks. So I think there's a lot more to round one than people give credit for. So that's why it's my third. It's my third pick. The ranking next, obviously I have to pick round three. Round three, you could argue, is a lot of people's favorite round. And once again, it's not a bad round. Just because I'm putting it in fourth place does not mean that I think it's a bad round. It was an absolutely excellent round. It was humanity's first victory. That stands apart. It's where we learned a lot more about the Volans. That was very heavy and stuff. And this is one of the fights especially after losing Adam and stuff. I think it comes off as we sort of needed the W. We really needed the W at this point, and Poseidon was someone we love to hate. Poseidon was a wet blanket of a personality, and to give respect to the fact that Zeus had this superiority complex before Poseidon definitely showcased that even more so. Is that he didn't, at the end of the day, Poseidon never respected Sasaki. The difference is, so there was some uniqueness here. because all the gods have been arrogant this entire time. Remember, the beginning, the premise of the story has been, guess what? The gods, Ragnarok, are you kidding me? We put that in there as a joke. There's no humans that can stand up to the gods. And then Brunhilde, of course, toys with them and trolls them and basically, pits them, sort of wounds their pride a little bit. And I'm thinking of the word, and I can't think of the word right now, eggs them on, I guess, but that's not the word I'm looking for. But basically ensnares them in her trap to convince them, hey, yeah, we're going to do Ragnarok. Thor went out there and at the end respected Lubu. And after Adam's defeat, Zeus respected Adam. Round 3 is different because I don't think Kojiro truly ever, he gave the respect to his opponent, but I don't think he ever thought, yeah, Poseidon, you were a good battle, and had we met on other circumstances, no. There was no camaraderie. There was no understanding from Poseidon or from Sasuke. Sasuke the world's greatest loser, needed to defeat Poseidon, and Poseidon had zero love for humanity even after he died. And he was a stubborn son of a bitch to kill, and there was a lot to love about round 3. Once again, Sasuke has been, and he's sort of back into the story a little bit more. We saw him in glimpses here and there in that little subplot line between, I think it was round 4 and 5. I think it was. I'm not 100%, but we've seen him before. We've been seeing Okita and stuff, but it's good. And Jack the Ripper we've seen again, so it's good that we're slowly bringing back some characters, right, that have won and stuff, and we get to see them more. That's mostly been on the god side. Zeus is still up there talking with Hermes and Ares and people like that, but it's been nice, and we've even gotten to see a couple of glimpses of Thor now and again. But it's been nice that we get to see Sasuke some more and stuff, seeing how the winners react to other people's rounds and what's going to go on in the background in between rounds and things like that. Are they going to fight again? Are we going to see them fight again? It's round 3 made us ask a lot of questions. And overall, the round was great. The round was a lot of fun. The whole ultimate defense of being able to envision everything and stuff like that, it worked out really well. So round 3, definitely a good contender for a lot of people's favorite, and I totally understand that. This is where we started to fall off. This is where we're going downhill. The last 3. Now, my order is subject to change. Of course, my entire order here is subject to change for all 7 rounds. Though I think I'm going to keep definitely the first place, round 4, and the last place. I definitely think I'm going to keep this order. At least it's the in-between that is the question. But this is where we're going a little bit downhill, ladies and gentlemen. So as I said, this is sort of the divider. The first 4 rounds of Ragnarok, I would argue, are all well-written, good, with great characters. They have personality. Each round felt different and unique, and actually meant something to the development of each character, whether they die at the end of the round or not. Here's the deal. After this, instead of going the direction of the subplot route, which they should have been banking on more than the rounds themselves, and they're trying to do that because this is where the beginning of the subplots start. And it's a problem because instead of going all in on the rounds not so important anymore, it's the stuff going on behind the scenes is more intriguing and more important, they don't capitalize on it. They spend a chapter, 2 chapters, chapter and a half, whatever it was, showcasing, ooh, what's the mystery behind Bishamonten? Ooh, what's the mystery with Buddha? What's going on with Loki? What's happening? Sasuke's getting back involved, what's going on here? Odin and Zeus needing to shut people down. Okay, all these things are slowly starting to happen in the background, and we're wondering, okay, what's going to happen and who's going to die? And at the time, I remember doing my live streams, doing my reviews, and I remember saying that I think that somebody's going to get murdered before their round. I think the next couple rounds, a fighter, whether it's a god, I mostly assumed it would be one of the gods, but one of the gods was going to be found dead. And one of the ones on the list, of course, and then there's going to be this huge plot line. They're going to have to continue the tournament, and they were going to have to substitute, and blah, blah, blah. That's how we were going to originally get, I thought, Ra or Hades or somebody like that. And at the end of the day, instead of going that route, and I'm not saying we needed the murder subplot. We didn't need the Sosuke Aizen thing 2.0. But we needed something because round 5 felt so fucking long. And you would think that this is the point, because that's what I've been arguing. Ever since the end of round 4, we had all these different directions and nothing capitalized on. So you would think that I'd say this is the beginning of the end, and it was. But round 6 is the top of the worst. I'm actually going to put round 6 in the 5th spot. Because round 6 has a few things going for it that just unfortunately didn't work at the end. But overall, some of these points still can't be taken away. Unlike round 5, and we'll get there. Round 6 is still not a great round. And I'll tell you why round 6 isn't a great round. Starts and ends with Hajun. Unnecessary as fuck. Unnecessary. And stupid. And realistically made it just become something that the round was never supposed to be. Okay? Round 6 starts off fantastic. We're introduced to Buddha. Buddha ends up being a traitor. And that chapter was awesome. Everybody loved that chapter. Everybody loved the chapter where Buddha turned traitor. He went, he fought, he taught Brunhilde. He still knows the real reason, apparently, why Brunhilde is doing all this. There's a secret, there's a method, there's a reason she wants humanity to win. There's a reason she, started Ragnarok in the first place, or even brought it to the table at the beginning of the series. So there's a lot of plot there, and there's a lot of things we want to know. He was the one to teach the Volend to the Valkyries. He's the one who did this. He's the one who did that. His backstory was meh. But that's irrelevant because what was great about it was this felt different. It was a lot different, right? My whole key thing about round 1, remember what I just talked about with round 1? It was different. It was a mid-diff fight. It was two very similar characters just going at it with mutual respect for each other. It was a short fight. There was just a couple of small abilities and boom. I mean, they were large scale, but they were small abilities. It was quick, it was easy, it was simple. And it was different from the ones that followed it. Round 6 sort of felt like we were bringing that back a little bit. Something a little different. Where from the beginning, Buddha respected Zero, and Zero being, Bishamonten becoming the 7 lucky gods, originally being a very original god called Zero Fuku. Zero Fuku, once again, one of the best backstories, I would argue, right up there next to Jack's. Probably the second best backstory. You could argue that Jack the Ripper's backstory is probably the best in the series. I would say there is an easy argument for number 2 being Zero Fuku. And the fact that his backstory included the one he's fighting, which is why he hates Buddha so much. This all made so much sense. It really did. It was a great start to a great round. All of his designs were crazy. The crazy axes he was pulling out of his body, the 7 deadly sin beads and all that stuff. Everything was crazy. And Zero as a character is tragic, is sad, and it's absolutely a fantastic storyline because Zero tried to do what Buddha did, and humanity caused their own shit. Zero was young and naive and tried to help humanity, not realizing it was one of those do you give a father what he asks for or what he needs, right? That's the age-old question. As a parent, like when you're the kid or when you're the parent. When you're the parent, do you give the child what they ask for or what the child needs? It's a very difference, and some parenting skills view that completely different. Zero Fuku was column A, Buddha was column B. Buddha's way worked, and he got love and appreciated and adored for it. Zero did the exact same thing in a different method, and nothing. He suffered, he get spared, there was just so much. I could go on and on about Zero Fuku's backstory and why it's fantastic, and why Zero's a great character. The fact of the matter is, here's where the round 6 tanks, because round 6 started strong. 2 characters that we were automatically invested in. People like Buddha. A lot of people. I still like Buddha. Buddha's a cool character. And I liked Zero. Zero's a great character. So what could go wrong? We have two characters, with one with a great backstory, one with an okay backstory, and the fight was, once again, we had just had, you have to remember, from rounds 2 through 5 were all down to the wire, the last man standing, both beaten and bloody. It was high diff, the highest of diffs. One last attack decides the fate of the fight, all the time. Unlike round 1. Finally, round 6 feels okay, mid to low diff. And it was quick, and it was short, and it was unique, bringing back some of the differences that set round 1 apart from all the other rounds. We needed that. We needed to change up a little bit. We can't have every single fight be Rocky Balboa versus Apollo Creed every fucking time, okay? It doesn't work that way. You can't do that every time. Things need to be shaken up a little bit. Things need to have that little bit of flavor difference, right? I mean, as much as you guys might love, your salt and pepper, or, your salt, pepper, garlic, very classic. And some people might love their teriyaki flavors, or some people might like their cayenne peppers or their hot sauces, whatever. I guarantee you, yes, your favorite sauce in the world, whether it's a spicy mayo or a hot sauce or a mustard or whatever, do you want that on every meal for the rest of your life? 3 times a day. You have to eat that mustard on every piece of food. No, you need to change up the flavor profile. It doesn't mean that you don't still love that mustard. But eventually you get sick of the same shit. No matter how much I love a steak dinner, I don't want to eat a steak dinner 3 times a day for the next 50 years. I'm going to get sick of steak, potatoes, and salad. I really am. Anybody would. So the fact of the matter is that round 6 was starting to do that because we were getting a little bored. People could sense it. By round 5, it was sort of like, this is getting a little like, all right, it's like, why are we repeating round 2? People were doing a lot of comparisons to round 2, going, all right, the uniqueness of round 4 with the different storytelling and the ingenuity of Jack not being a brawler fighter, the landscape changing to London, things like that. Like, there were some differences. Sword fighting in the round 3, things had been different. But now with round 5, it was starting to feel like a round 2 repeat. And now with round 6, it was looking like, okay, round 5 was a bit of a lull. Let's climb back up. No, they fucked it all up. Instead of just having it ended and over right there, where Zero finally accepts, halfway through the fight, when Buddha beats him down, he says, Zero, I actually commend you. I like you. And I don't know if Buddha ever fully understood what happened with Zero and what all the things and how humanity treated him, but Buddha actually appreciated and liked Zero. And they were going to do this whole big brother, little brother sort of relationship thing. And it was going to be nice to see around. This would have made it even more unique once again. Not only do we get introduced to an original god and one god turned traitor, so it's God versus God, which makes it a very unique by itself. It's also a low diff fight, and both combatants survive. Both combatants survive. People mistakenly thought that there was a translation out there that was, I don't believe was confirmed, but when I went back through, there was nowhere that I ever read that it said somebody can't just, it can't forfeit. Somebody can't just go, nope, I lose, and walk off. There was no real discussion about if anybody ever wants to do that, right? So, I'm not saying that anybody would, but in this instance, Buddha could have picked Zero up and went, all right, I'm taking Zero back with me. Nobody fucking touch him. And, humanity gets the W. That would have been far superior. Round 6 would have stayed unique as fuck. Probably one of the most unique rounds. And that would have made us feel a lot better. Then we introduced the stupidity with Hajun and fucked it all up. Right? Because Hajun just made no goddamn sense. Let's be real. Hajun made no fucking sense. Zero. In the entirety, ironically, Zero. In the entirety of Ragnarok. The fact that, okay, Buddha's eyes, which are super crazy, like Adam's, all of a sudden, the only reason... See, here was the problem. A perfect counter to Buddha's ability. Wow, I wonder why. And maybe plot convenience, because we can't have somebody mid-diff, low-diff on a round... Like, nobody read round 1 or something? It's ridiculous. And then we had like the Hajun thing and the Beelzebub with the horns, and then Zero died, and it's like that was sort of like I don't like that. Round 6 had its slew of problems, and all they wanted to do was make it so that Buddha had to go down to the wire. And it's like, we don't need every round to be like that. Round 1 was fine. Round 6 was fine halfway through. Like, I don't know. I just think I'm done rambling about this because I could keep going on and on and on. But Hajun was a dumb addition, adding in an unnecessary plot line just to introduce mad scientist, carbon copy Mayuri Kuritsuchi from Bleach into Ragnarok. Okay, we get it. Beelzebub is the Lord of the Flies, so he's Jeff Goldblum in The Fly. I get it. He's a weirdo emo scientist in a priest robe. Got it. Did not need him to ruin Zero Fuku and make round 6 way too long, by the way. Way too long. By adding in the Hajun chapters, I think it ended up being the longest round by chapter and page number as a result of that, which was way too long. Round 5 had that issue too, but this just, oof. So, too many issues. They could have introduced Beelzebub the exact same way. Now, I'm not a fan of the whole Beelzebub plotline or bringing Adamus back or any of this shit. However, the fact of the matter is that even if you're going to do that, there was other ways to do it without butchering and extending round 6 into something ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous. So, yeah, so round 6 is the top of the heap because the first half of round 6 had so much promise and I really liked it. A lot of us did. When Hajun was introduced, that's when it tanked hard. And everything involving Hajun and the length of the fight just really started to tank it. So that's why it's at the top. That's why it's in spot number 5. And there's only 2 rounds that, of course, are worse. So, moving on from there, what do we got? Well, I think you guys all know from my reaction from the live stream, a couple days ago, that, or was it yesterday? Man, time flies. But at the end of the day, round 5 is not the worst round anymore. Because that belongs to round 7. Now, I've already sort of bitched about round 5. And the reason it's below round 6 is because round 5 was never that interesting to begin with. Shiva's backstory is not terrible, but mid at best. And Raiden's backstory is, once again, average. Wasn't bad, wasn't good, was just there. So the backstories aren't really much to write home about. Shiva as a character isn't really all that great. I don't know anybody who really adores Shiva. I'm not saying they're not out there. I'm sure there's people that adore every character as their favorite. But in this particular instance, Shiva isn't bringing any charisma to the table from the god side. It ends up being a slugfest. There's no special eye powers. There's no spears. There's nothing from the mythology. I made a whole discussion video. I think it's my most watched video on my channel. And all the controversy just started to ruin round 5. Round 5 was way too long for what it was. Raiden was okay. Shiva was okay. But neither one of them brought enough charisma to the round for us to be like, yeah, we want to see more of this round and more of these characters. The round was excessively long for what it was. And then, to top it all off, once we finally unlocked the 4 moves of sumo that Raiden locked away, and now with the Volant he's able to unleash his full potential, he uses like one move, the Yatagarasu. I think he used one more, but I know he didn't use all 4. Don't tell me there's 4 hidden moves and then only show me fucking one of them and then make the man lose. Like, that was terrible. Just tell me that he only ever mastered one sumo move, but he had to lock it away, and that is the Yatagarasu. Like, you could have done that. Don't tell me, the other way around, You don't go into a fight and say, this man has 3 Frieza-level transformations. Nope, we killed him at transformation 2. He never tried to go to, alien, Ridley Scott alien form. He never tried to go to Frieza, final form or superpower form or golden Frieza. He tried to do none of that. No, he had the opportunity, he didn't try, and then he lost. Then don't tell me he's got all the transformations in the first place. So it's the exact same thing. See, this is the problem. Round 6 is better than round 5 only because round 6 started off strong. Buddha was a very likable new character with a twist. And also, as I said, God versus God, there was uniqueness, there was a lot there. There was potential for round 6, and the initial few chapters of round 6 were quite good. Round 5 was not bad necessarily, but it was mid. It was too long, and there's nothing there to hold us. 2 mid backstories, 2 average characters, and nothing unique about the fight. In fact, there's things to complain about the fight. So, and then, as I've already said, we had this little bit of a subplot going on in the background, in between, in the middle of this fight, that literally basically goes nowhere. It was cool, but I wish it was capitalized on. Then we could have ignored that, okay, round 5 isn't one of the best rounds, but storytelling-wise, we had a lot of cool shit going on in the background. So, yes, the round might not have been so great, but the storyline continued to be great. But no, we just get some confrontation chapters that, while cool, don't go anywhere. And then we get this, and then we get a mediocre round. It was average at best, so it definitely, it doesn't have the low points that round 6 does, but it certainly doesn't hit the high points either. So I put round 6 above it for that very reason. And with that all out of the way, the last round number 7, is at the goddamn bottom of the shitstorm. Because I'll accept, upon reread, just like anything, people complain about, Whole Cake Island, Dressrosa, Wano, all that stuff in One Piece, right? Upon a reread, when you're not waiting weeks and months and stuff for things to go, things seem to flow and be paced a lot better. Upon a reread of round 6 and 5, they, of course, don't feel nearly as long as they do when we're waiting for chapters in month to month to month. However, they are still quite long and the points still stand. Round 7. I have not reread it yet. I really would rather not to. Because round 7 is so out of order in its delivery. We get a double backstory for the human character. Then we get Hades' backstory way too fucking late. Way too late, at the point that had we had it at the beginning, we probably would have been far more invested in the fight. However, I'm not going to excuse chapters where I didn't care when I'm giving the information later to care. That just means you put shit out of order. You done goofed, right? So, it's sort of like if you wrote a book and somebody misprinted the copy and they put chapters 20 through 25 at the beginning of the book, right? And then would you really complain if you read that book and you had no idea, that had happened, and it was titled chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way till 25 and the book's over, and you read that all, and you complained that the book was backwards and silly and stupid, you wouldn't be wrong. Because that's the way you read it and experienced it. And that's a typo. That's a mistake, right? That's a misprint. Something went screwy. In this particular instance, this was intentional. They intentionally put things in the wrong paced order so that we didn't give a shit about Hades, other than his cool design, for almost the entirety. So I'm sitting back just going, what are you doing? Hades' backstory was fantastic. It was a great backstory. It was the better Thor. A lot of people called it the better Thor backstory, and they're not wrong. It was great. Not only did we get that backstory way too late, one of the only good chapters, the other character gets 2 backstories, and we can argue that one of the backstories isn't bad. It was, when I first read it, I thought the Chin backstory, the second one, which, by the way, don't ever give me 2 backstories again. I just might drop the fucking series over that. But the fact of the matter is that the character who's not that great, not even that likable, got 2 backstories, and sure, one of them was solid, probably one of the best of the humans. Hades comes way too late, and then Hades loses. There's the other kicker. Hades lost. Hades lost makes no sense power scaling wise. All the hype that everybody hyped up is just completely misguided and wrong. In universe, I'm saying. Not community, in universe. Hades shows up as the pinch hit fighter that we've been waiting for. He's the elder brother. He's the king. He's amazing. And he loses. And the problem is that he lost due to some Naruto air bubble bullshit in my series. Here's the worst part. People have been complaining. I've complained that where's some more of the superpowers? We didn't really see Poseidon use water powers. We didn't really see Zeus use lightning. We didn't see, Shiva became the Burning Man for a little bit and stuff. But, like, we're sort of like, all right, like, can we get away from the slugfest and get some more powers? And instead, the king of hell, the king of the underworld, there's no Cerberus, there's no flames of hell, there's no skeleton army, there's no Yamamoto Bankai shit from Hades. Hades just hits really fucking hard. He swings a spear. That's his thing. But we give a superpower to the Emperor of China, who uses air bubbles. Some air bubble jutsu, like a kid's water squirt gun. It was the worst fucking thing. And the fact that it did so much, it was able to warp the chi point of a god, the star points, and all this. I'm sitting there like, it's just, we could make an entire video about round 7, but I think I highlighted all the problems with it, because otherwise this video is going to go on for an hour and I'll just keep ranting. But I've already ranted, so definitely, like, each chapter is up on the channel. Each review and reaction is up on the channel. So if you want to know what I thought about a certain page or when something was said, blah, 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 definitely you can go back and you can watch that, right? You can watch all the past live streams. All the VODs are there. But suffice to say, big problems with the chapter. Double backstory, length of the fight, time in between the releases, the double chapters not being real, double chapters only being like 19 pages and shit. Like, that's not a double chapter, so what the fuck? And splitting up a chapter 61.1 and 61.2. All this weird shit in this round. Just everything inside, in universe and outside universe, just started to ruin shit. It's when in April, that's when, as I said, the team, I forget who it was at the time, might have been Demi, I'm not sure who, but they went off on the community basically saying, look, ever since round 4, the community has sucked, everyone's been hating this shit, so shut the fuck up. There's a whole thing, I actually talked about that on the live stream. At first I was like, really, this is what they're doing? But I agreed completely after reading the whole thing that they weren't wrong to bitch at the community for this, because the community has become toxic, the rounds have sucked, things aren't looking great, and this round is no exception. We get double backstory that is unnecessary. We get the backstory that actually matters in the wrong spot. The wrong person won. The pacing was awful. And the only superpower we get is the worst pulled out ass pull bullshit air bubble chi fucking crap I've ever seen. It's got to be one of the worst things. So, I mean, I haven't felt this disappointed since I saw Hatsumi Sen versus Kano Agito in Kengan Asura. This is right up there, being that terrible. And round 8 better be fire, is all I gotta say. Round 8 better pull its head out of its ass and do something great, because this 3 rounds in a row. If round 8 is anything below average, then that's going to mean that half the manga is bad. Half the manga. Actually more, because the rounds have been getting longer, not shorter, as I've been complaining about. What we need to do to fix this is A, allow a couple of mid-diff fights. We need a couple of mid-diff. Round 6 was fire right up until Hajun was introduced. That's where it should have ended, right before Hajun. That would have been unique, and it would have been shorter. That's another thing. Length of these rounds. The lengths seemingly are getting longer. Stop doing that, because nobody likes the rounds. Extended pages for Adam versus Zeus or Heracles versus Jack would have been fine, but not for rounds that are getting worse and worse as we progress through the story. Shorten the fights up, make them more unique, Have some mid-diff fights. Have somebody show up. Have Odin come in and wipe the fucking floor with a human. Just destroy him. He gets one good hit off on Odin. Odin tears off his eye patch, laughs, and then fucking butchers him. You know? Make it, they all don't need to come down to the wire. Add some uniqueness, add some differences. Bring some superpowers into the game again, because if we don't, this is just going to drop off. And nobody's going to want to finish the series. At least I don't think. But that's my rant. That's my entire list. Hopefully this video isn't an hour long. I don't know how long it's going to be. Probably close to it. But it is what it is. This is my bitching. This is, as I already warned you guys, this is me bitching. This is the discussion. It's what I do. So those are all my bullet points. Those are all my key points. Of course, I missed some points. I'm trying to talk about all 7 rounds of a 64 chapter monthly manga series. Trying to condense it all into bullet points. Of course, so I'm going to miss some highlights. I'm going to miss some points. I'm going to have weaker arguments for some of my points because I didn't want to keep on going and going and going. And this is just off the cuff. I got no script. There's nothing in front of me. It's just me looking into my blue eyes and my white ass eyes, looking at the white ass screen and just, talking. So I'm just here to talk shit. So that's all I'm saying. That's Record of Ragnarok as of chapters from chapter 0 up to chapter 64. That's my conclusion, is that Ragnarok reached its peak at round 4 and has been slowly sliding off that mountain pinnacle ever since, and it's only getting further downhill. The descent is getting quicker. It's picking up momentum and speed like a snowball down in an avalanche, and it doesn't look like it's stopping anytime soon. So let's pray to all of the gods, ironically. Let's pray to all the winning gods. Let's pray to Thor, Zeus, anybody we need to please make round 8 good. We need round 8 to be good. So, because round 7 sucked, right? Anyways, that's the video, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the ranting and the bitching. Like, comment, subscribe as always. Fourth and most importantly, drink responsibly as I always do. And we will see you guys back here next time for another video, I'm sure. If not, chapter 65 of Shuumatsu no Valkyrie. Looking forward to it, I guess. And we'll see you back here next time. Alright, bye-bye.